one?
He's the only one.
Okay, we're going to go through and play it a second time. We're going to stop at a couple of points along the way, just to clarify a couple things if I could. I know that that moved along pretty rapidly. If we can go ahead and start playing it again, we'll stop at about 56 seconds. I'll take it. Stop it here, please. No, go ahead, just if you, I'm sorry. Stop right there. All right. Obviously, you can see the fire truck back behind here. They had responded to the scene and had already gone back to, at this point, had walked back to, because they were going to be leaving. They weren't needed at the scene any longer. They figured out they didn't have a fire issue or they were going to be pulling out of the area. So they're back in their fire truck there. Over here on the left side of the screen, you see the three officers standing there. On the left is Officer Jake Wallin. In the middle, with the vest on, is Officer Tyler Hawes. And on the right is Officer Andrew Dotis. It's about 15 feet from where they're standing, to where Barakat is in his vehicle. He is seated in the driver's side of the vehicle. His window's open, and his arm is kind of resting on the door frame at that point. We're not today releasing the images from the other officers' body cams. Couple of quick things. Dotis is hit immediately with multiple rounds and goes down. He does struggle to his feet at one point and goes back down. Officer Hawes is struck immediately too in initial automatic burst. Neither of them sees it coming. You heard Robinson yell up to Dotis. He was going to communicate something to him because Robinson's going to move his police cruiser. Once that fire truck leaves, Robinson was going to move his police cruiser up so that it was behind the vehicle and they didn't have another car crash out there. So he called to Dotis. They turned to him and they're looking out at Robinson. And that's when Barakat comes up, reaches over in his seat, comes up with the gun out the window and starts shooting immediately. Because Officer Jake Wallin is on the left there, Barakat picks left and is going to come across. Wallin, in an instant, somehow manages to make a couple of running steps closer to the vehicle, but at an angle, kind of getting himself into a better angle. He does unholster his weapon. He does get off one round. Just before he is about to get his hand back, his left hand to steady the weapon further, he is struck by a single round from Barakat's .223. Again, this all happens very rapidly on here. There are things that we were only able to see when we went frame to frame to frame to frame. But from Robinson's video here, you do see the shooting start, and also I should mention Carly Kosick. She is shot after them. She first takes the ground, goes to the ground as anybody would in that circumstance. When Robinson's behind the vehicle calling in, per protocol, he's got to get that call in, because as we said at a previous press conference, of course, he doesn't know how many shooters are out there. He doesn't know what's coming next. He's got to get people coming in. Carly got up at some point and tried to run. which drew Barakat's attention for just a moment. After he'd already engaged Robinson, it drew his attention for just a moment. He shoots her. And that's when Robinson, in his first volley back, I think it's his first volley back, is when he takes out the weapon, strikes the 223, and also is where he hits Barakat for the first time, and then Barakat goes down to the ground. Okay.
Central, we got shots fired. Central, we got shots fired. Central, we got a man with an AK-47. He's shooting at us. We're at Central, shots fired, shots fired. We got 3 officers down. 3 officers down. Send everybody.
Stop. Okay. Robinson has just made the call in to send everybody. Beyond this, this is where you can hear the sirens start coming because the response is very rapid. The officer that you saw come into the frame at the very end after Barakat has been neutralized, that's Officer Clower, who had about a week or 2 left, 12 days left in his service to the city of Fargo and to the region. And he was the first to get there and had his weapon out, and he came up there, and he is retired in the wake of that. But he was scheduled to retire and had that time frame left. So anyway, I want to point out that it's at this point that Robinson commands Barakat twice to put his hands up. That's where Barakat is seen fumbling with his 223, trying to get that back up while he's laying on the ground. And 6 times, Robinson commands him to drop the gun. The gun that he sees after he can't get the 223 up, the Barakat pulls out what later is shown to be a 9mm loaded semi-automatic handgun. He had another semi-automatic on him as well, but it's the 9mm that he got into his hands. That non-compliance persisted with the gun, and Officer Robinson shot him 3 times at that point. Understandably, as you go through this, it would be understandable to anybody the number of rounds that Officer Robinson is able to put into Barakat, and Barakat persists. I think any reasonable conclusion would be he's wearing body armor of some kind, he's got a bulletproof, something that he's persisting on, because at that point, Robinson's moving in, and he knows, I'm sure knew, that he was connecting with those. The best information that we have to anticipate the question is that of the 31 rounds that Officer Robinson shot, 21 rounds struck Barakat. Okay, let's continue on.
Stop moving! Stop moving! Put your hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Fargo 534, 3 officers down. Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
Stop again. A couple things you saw there. You saw Robinson have to reload his service weapon. They have 17 rounds in them. 18. The typical protocol is to put a live round into the chamber and then fully stock your magazine. At this point, he gives 6 more commands to drop your gun. You see Barakat with the 9mm. Anyone who's familiar with semi-automatic weapons, he's trying to chamber around. He's got his hand on the top, but he's trying to chamber around into his 9mm. As I said, it was loaded. As it turns out, I think that there already was a round in his chamber, but still very much, as we say, in the fight. Interestingly, Officer Robinson, every time, obviously, he is going to communicate back. He steps out of the line, what would be the line of fire with Barakat, to use the car as a buffer, and then he steps back into the frame each time after beyond that. Continue.
Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun! Drop the gun!
and stop it again. At that point, you can see Barakat still has the gun. He's reaching for it again with his left hand. It was being held in his right. Officer Robinson, at that point, neutralizes him with 5 rounds. This is, I went through and looked at the calculation. It's a minute and 46 seconds, 1 minute, 46 seconds between the first barrage from Barakat's 223 to the neutralization of Barakat by Officer Robinson. This is not television, of course, so anybody who you've ever talked to who's been in a firefight of this kind will tell you 1 minute and 46 seconds is a lifetime. That is a very long turn of events. And as you see it play out, never lose track of the fact that right there next to that, in that vehicle, you don't see them in this video, but beyond that are several civilians standing just beyond that are in the line of fire underneath that vehicle, in addition to the officers who are there on the scene. As I said, we'll take your questions, of course, when we get to the end of this. And with that, I turn it over to Chief Zabolski.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate all the assistance of your office. And again, thanks to the North Dakota Bureau of Criminal Investigation, Director Grabowska, his team.